Well, the Concerned Veterans for America say the freedoms that veterans have defended are being threatened by the irresponsibility, broken promises, and misguided priorities of our leaders in Washington. Joining us to discuss, Senior Coalitions Advisor at Concerned Veterans for America and an Army and Navy veteran, Jason Beardsley. Jason, thank you for your service and thank you for being with us today. Something that's so important for veterans who have fought to defend our country, and then all of a sudden they're no longer being taken care of. That should be something that never even begins to happen, but you're saying it does. How is your group helping?
Yeah, Concerned Veterans for America, we really gather those who have fought on the front lines and patriots and people that support our veterans. We want to make sure legislation is right-sized and the solutions for helping veterans get health care, removing all the barriers of government and legislation, are done. And the way we do that is by making sure that people like Secretary McDonough, the VA, are held responsible. We passed what was called Mission Act a few years back, which allowed veterans to get good access in their communities to health care. And there have been a lot of challenges in rolling that out over the last few years. The only way we hold them responsible is by having congressional oversight. So Concerned Vets for America, we want to make sure that congressional oversight is there and that the right pieces of legislation are being crafted so that our veterans can always count on the promise that was made by our nation.
Why do you think veterans are becoming less taken care of or even less remembered, I will say, in this specific way, when it comes to health care?
Oh, healthcare, is such a large thing when you look at the government distributing healthcare across the entire nation, 300,000+ people inside the bureaucracy and about 1,200 brick and mortar locations. It's not really, the government is not really a delivery system. It's not a healthcare system. So Healthcare Freedom Act, which is a bill that's going into Congress now, would offer veterans the opportunity to use healthcare in their local communities instead of having to rely on a VA. I'm a case in point. If I have to use the VA, I've got to drive over an hour away. And then oftentimes our wait times are terribly long. And so all we're asking legislators to do is clear those barriers so that veterans can get the quickest access to mental health. And it's tough to do when you rely on the huge bureaucracy to distribute that health care. What makes it easy is when government gets out of the way and we focus the care on the veterans and not the administration.
Yeah, and Jason, you mentioned bureaucracy. And I mean, the CVA says that Washington spending jeopardizes the safety and prosperity of the country. I mean, that echoes very much what many conservatives are saying as we're looking at this latest debt ceiling debate. Explain that for us.
We're very interested in smart spending, right? And oftentimes you see when the government has expenditures and overheads and debt limits that they run through, what they're not doing is carefully legislating or administering the programs they have. Case in point, we were in the war for Afghanistan and Iraq for over 20 years. We lost a lot of money in that. We lost a lot of lives. Today is a sober reflection of all those who gave their last full measure. But when the government is not held every year, every election cycle, every quarter really, accountable for every dollar it spends, it doesn't spend it well. The system's just very big. So citizens that really want to thank veterans, really want to step out and lift up veterans, have to make sure they're voting and that they're smartly applying legislative solutions to the problems that veterans face. Right now, with 4 times as many people from Iraq and Afghanistan that have committed suicide compared to those that died in action, we really have to get the barriers out of the way so that folks can access mental health quickly and easily.
Yeah, certainly with PTSD, a huge problem as well. How would you advise veterans who may be having troubles, who maybe need some help? Where should they go? Because I'm sure it can feel like a very, very small, lonely little world when you're suffering from many of those things that you mentioned.
Yeah, that's a very great point. Veterans have become isolated. We know isolation leads to that dark road of despair. And what I would encourage, everybody's case is a little bit different. But what's important is to reach out to those in your peer group or those that care for you. If you don't have a support system, there are mechanisms in place, whether it be the Department of Veterans Affairs or a number of C3s and C4s in the community, your churches, or people that are willing to reach out and lift up and wrap their arms around you. Isolation is the most dangerous thing for a veteran. It's something we learn in schools like SEER School, where they challenge you as a prisoner of war how not to get isolated so that your morale is broken. And if we don't reach out, if we don't open our mouth and speak to those who have served with us or alongside us or people that care in the community, then we run the risk of going into desperate places as an isolated individual. So the most important thing is to reach out. Today, again, we've lost a lot of our peers and members, and we want to stop and just reflect on what they gave, but also why they gave it. And why they gave it is what we look at when we look at this country, the principles of freedom, equality, everything that our founders enshrined in the documents that made this the greatest nation in the world.
All right. Jason Beardsley from Concerned Veterans of America. Thank you for all that you're doing to help veterans like yourself. Thank you.